Hi everybody, today we're going to go over how to create GIFs or GIFs using Photoshop. So first we're going to create a new document, going to File, New, and you want to set up your document to be a web preset. And I'm going to set it up to be 728 width and 90 height. And that's a typical leaderboard size for a web ad. So again, 728 pixels wide by 90 pixels in height. Now, of course, you can set this to anything that you want. If you wanted to make it a square, you could do that. If you check out Tumblr, people do them in all different kinds of sizes, so feel free to do whatever. Just make sure it's in RGB mode and that the color and the background is set to white or transparent. Right now I have mine set to white. And I named mine GIF experiment as well. So I'm going to zoom in. And as I zoom in, I'm going to pay attention to the percentage sign in the top right corner. You want to make sure that you keep an eye on that because we are making something that's web size. So if you notice pixelization, it might be because you're zoomed too tight. So I'm at 200% in this case. So when building a GIF or a GIF, the thing that's important is to keep track of our layers. So I'm going to keep my eye on my Layers tab, which I'm dragging out right now. And here in the Layers tab, what you want to do is make sure that you stay very organized. So first we're going to make a new solid color layer as a background. Clicking on the black and white circle that if I find in the Layers palette, and then I'm going to click on the solid color button. And then I'm able to pick a color. So in this case, I'm choosing blue as my background color. And the next thing I'll do is I'm going to add some type. So I'm going to click and drag with the type tool. When I click and I drag, I make a paragraph type, which means I can then easily center my type later. I'm going to go ahead and write something out right now that says this is type, and highlight the type and change the color. I'm going to make it white so it just pops a little more, and then I'm going to increase the font size so we can read it a little better. And then since I've used the type paragraph setting, I can hit the center button and it'll center it right in the middle of my document. So I've got some type. Cool. All right, so the next thing I want to do is just clean up my layers over here. I'm going to get rid of that empty background layer that we started with by pressing on the little trash can. And now we've just got two layers. I'm going to name my layer, my background layer that I am keeping as blue background. And then I've got my type layer above that. And this is, again, part of the process of making GIFs. Just make sure your layers are organized because when we get to the animation part, it'll get weird. Now I'm going to grab the ellipse tool for my shapes. I'm going to make sure it's set to shape at the top of the screen. And I'm going to pick a fill. Right now I'm picking a red fill. And then I'm going to click and drag and create a shape. I'm holding down Shift as I do that, so it'll be nice and perfectly shaped. You'll notice there's some pixelization. That again is because I'm zoomed in a little more than bigger, and also because of the quality of my recording here, but you should see a nice sharp circle. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and call this red dot. So I've got 3 layers, everything is organized, and now I'm ready to do the next part, which will be to start to animate this thing. So again, make sure your layers are organized, make sure you know what you got. You don't want to have any extra things at all. So let's go to Window, Timeline, and Window Timeline will bring up the timeline window at the bottom of the screen, and then we can choose between Video Timeline, which I'll go over in another video, and Frame Animation, which is what we're going to talk about right now. So let's click Frame Animation. And once you click on Frame Animation, hit the button that says Frame Animation, and it'll start to show you the first frame of your animation. This is kind of like a flip book where, if you've ever made one of those as a little kid, each frame basically goes after each other so that you see something that looks like an animation. So it's a very basic way of animating. So right now we have one frame. And in this frame we have the 3 layers that we've been working on. So what I want to do is I want to make another frame and change the look a little bit. So I'm going to click on the little button here at the bottom of Timeline that allows me to duplicate the selected frame. So now I have 2 frames. And then what I'm going to do in this frame is I want to turn off the red dot. So in my layers palette, I'm going to turn off the red dot. So now if I go between frame 1 and frame 2, You'll notice I have the red dot on and then red dot off. So I'm going back and forth. Next thing I need to do is give this animation some time. So I'm going to click on the 0.5 seconds under each frame. That will make them animate for half a second. And then I'm going to loop it where it says once. I'm going to click on that and go to forever. So now it'll loop the whole thing. If I press the play button now, you'll see it'll play the loop of the red dot off and the red dot on. So that looks great. You can press play again to stop it. Now let's say we want to make another frame, so I'll click on that little frame button again, that button down there to make the third frame. And this time I'm going to grab the type and I'm going to move it. So I'm going to grab my move tool and I'm going to drag the type to the right of the screen. So now if I was to press play again, you'll see the red dot goes on and off and then the type flies across the screen. So you're starting to animate. Now, if you want to make your animations a little bit smoother, you can use this thing known as tweening, because you'll notice right now everything's kind of jagged. So what tweening does is it creates extra frames for you, so you don't have to do all the hard work of creating them. So I'm going to press stop, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to create some tweens. So to do that, you have to select the two frames you want to tween between. So that's frame 2 and 3. I want to make the type kind of go a little bit more gracefully across the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on frame 2, and I'm going to hold shift and click on frame 3 so that both are selected. Then I'm going to hit the little tween button, which is next to the little page button at the bottom of timeline. And then you'll get to choose how many frames you want to add. I'm choosing 5. So I'm adding 5 frames between frame 2 and 3. And that's going to create 5 new frames that'll take whatever was on frame 2 and 3 and gently kind of blend it. So as I press OK, you will see that now we'll have 5 extra frames between there. And there you go. The frames have been created. Now once you press play this time, you'll see that the type is now going to go a lot slower across the screen because of those tween frames that we added. And we're going to do another experiment with tween just to make sure you get this. We'll do it with the red dot. So I'm going to click on frame number 1, hold shift, and click on frame 2 like we did before so that we can add tweens. So click on frame 1, hold shift, click on frame 2, and then hit on the tween button. And again, we can add as many tweens as we want. I'm going to add 5. So it's going to add 5 new frames between 1 and 2. And there we go. So now when I press play, you'll see that the red dot is going to fade across the screen. And the type is also going to gently move across the screen. So now our animation is a little bit softer, moves a little bit with a little bit more ease than it did before, not as jagged with the changes. So again, tweens does some of that hard work for you. It does the blending between frames. And at this point, we're good. We're ready to test this thing. So to test it, I have to save it as a GIF or a GIF. That's just a pronunciation thing. I think technically it's GIF, but a lot of us call it GIF. But anyway, now we're going to save it. So we'll go to File, and we're going to choose Save for Web. File, Save for Web. And you'll find that there in File menu. And then when you're looking at the Save for Web window, you want to click on the 4-up option. It'll show you that file in 4 different levels of GIF. In other words, 4 different levels of sizes. And these sizes are important. So I'm going to go to GIF 128 dithered in the top right corner so I can get the best GIF that I can. And then I'm going to click on the little button on the side that says Repopulate Views, so it'll repopulate all the views I'm currently looking at. And then this is where you can pay attention to the size. Underneath the word GIF, there's a little number and a letter K. In this case, all my files are roughly around 9K, which is a small size. Tumblr, I think, has a limit of 1 megabyte or something. I'm not sure, but you're going to find those things that sometimes you'll have a limit. So you'll have to come back to this window and lower the quality of your GIF to match whatever limit you're given. And also depending on whatever client you're working with, or if this is for your own website, you always want to try to get the best bang for your buck. You want something to be small, but not be terrible quality. So this is a moment where you can come back and play with this. But yeah, if that looks good, you know, we just got to check those numbers. The only thing we have to look for is at the bottom where it says looping options. Make sure it's set to forever and then hit save. And then you'll save your GIF wherever you need to. And then you can open it in a browser by going to File, Open File. So I opened up Firefox, File, Open File, and then I click on my GIF that I just saved from Photoshop. And you should be able to open it. And it'll open in the browser. And then you can test to see whether or not the GIF is working. And it's usually best to test the GIF in a browser because it doesn't always play in the preview mode on your computer. And that covers that. We've made a GIF using frame animation. We're going to do it again using video timeline, which is a little more complicated, but you get some smoother results coming up next. Thanks for watching and subscribe. Thanks.